Kia ora. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for asking me. I'm deeply honoured and somewhat a bit flattered to be asked down to what is one of my favourite parts of the world. I've been a lifeguard for about 56 years, and the Mount has been my playground, surfing and life-saving. I used to be a waiter along here for most of the summers when I was a teenager, a place called the Top Hat. If you're somebody from the Mount, yeah. It was a great life, and if I wasn't so bloody old, I'd like to apply for a job at a Mount cafe and bar any time. But my life has taken me a little bit to different directions from those days, and I became the mayor of Waitakere after actually being a campaign strategist for the great Mayor Robinson. And, you know, I used to feel when I used to go to the mayoral forums that I used to channel Robbie wherever Robbie might be from these days. Because when I worked with Robbie, it was a great cauldron of wonderful ideas. And Robbie, I think, is a bit like me, a disorganiser. I mean, I look at a project where people say it can't happen, and I say it can happen. And Robbie was like that. Robbie broke all the rules, and I reckon I learned so much from him. I learned how to have a big vision and how to seize the opportunity of the moment and the day. You know, I think there's something that I always lived by. I think he told me this wonderful slogan, which I've kind of lived with all my life in local government: it's wrong to be right too soon. And I reckon that is about today. I just think there is a moment in time that is so right, that feels right, and the moment happens and you have to seize it. You know, I kind of, well, for those my friends in the Labour Party, I invented a thing with a few others, researchers, called trends, as it were, way back in the 80s. And the trends kind of grabbed strands of research, lifestyle, health, well-being, how we wanted to be, how we wanted to feel, and analysed it the way the country was going. Yes, it was political, but the fact was I still kept with that. And when I became the mayor of Waitakere City, the thing that I didn't want to be caught, and there's a few mayors here, is a mayor without a bloody idea. I needed a desperate idea because I thought I just might get elected. Well, I did get elected, and I had that idea, and it was a simply hot, fizzing idea. It was called the environment. A lot of people kind of didn't understand it quite, but they got the idea that I was talking about something that was bigger than them, that they could buy into, they could feel it was right. And the idea of an eco-city was one of the first in the world, I guess. This little tiny Waitakere city with less than 200,000 people suddenly felt that something good was happening, something big. I mean, the town was the wrong side of the tracks, as you probably guessed. Crime was high, the rivers, streams were full of crap, shopping trolleys, car bodies, all that stuff. And Westies had a very bad idea of themselves, and everything had been scribbled on with graffiti. Every fence and every building had somebody's mark on it. And I decided that the thing that they needed more than me, was someone that would show some leadership and give them a sense of pride and a sense of place. And so I built the moment and the time. And I used to look at Auckland, where I'd grown up, because I'm a gully boy from there, and I only moved out west when my mother accidentally burnt the house down. And it's a hell of a good reason for moving, I have to say. And so I used to look at Auckland, and I remembered how Auckland had that glory where everybody went to Queen Street on a Friday night to have fun, pick up girls, all that kind of stuff. I think they probably still do, and they're younger and probably different. But Auckland had rotted. Everyone had fled to the suburbs. The suburbs had everything, south, west, north shore, and Auckland had, I guess, Asian students walking up and down, looking for something to do. McDonald's or KFC. The movies had kind of closed. No one went to the movies. The shops had turned into $2 shops in arcades. It was seedy. And no one actually kind of felt that Auckland I'm talking of, belonged to them. We didn't care what the councillors did or said. Everyone, basically, I'm talking of Auckland, ignored them. And it seemed to me that transformation maybe was impossible, that the idea of getting together, the pettiness of the feuding that went on, the jealousy, the envy between the little councils that had survived Bassett's massacre in 1989, were trying to do something good. But they were always defeated because they couldn't stop bickering. And even though we kept a good face on it, it seemed to me that a hell of a lot needed to be changed. In fact, the defibrillator that was put on Auckland's heart was more than some could cope with. But the fact was, it was the right time, and a bit like the Lord of the Rings, you know, a journey had started. So let me quickly take you through this journey and this Auckland, because it is a monster. It's greedy, it's avaricious, it's ethnic, it's music, it's a bloody great magnet, and it can't be stopped. There's no way it can have a ball and chain clamped on it. This Auckland, this Tamaki Makura, this place of 1,000 lovers, has come into its own. And it's been very painful. And a lot of people have been crushed in it, I might say. But some have willingly jumped under its wheels. The rest have embraced it. And this moment now has come, I think, for the Bay of Plenty. It's come to you, and I thought Rodwell's brilliant presentation and Peter McKinley's excellent reshaping of local government in the Bay of Plenty papers sets, if you like, the overture for you to do something, for you to seize, I think, that opportunity and how to join 4 million people, if you like, 4.1 million people of New Zealand, because Auckland is now New Zealand. The despair of Christchurch is my despair also, that down there they have a chance of building one of the great cities on the globe, an environmental and high-tech city, a glamorous, glorious city that people go, look what they're doing down there. But as Rod said, they're building a 19th century Edwardian, probably Victorian Edwardian city, which is a tragedy on a tragedy, where Auckland has picked itself up and is actually making the best of an extraordinary opportunity. So you know a lot about these facts, and I won't bore you. I'll talk to them more than going there. But 1.4 million people, 32% of the national population, that actually likes who they are. I have to say before, I think it was World Cup. I looked for that ingredient, and I was on the World Cup committee, and I felt that this was also a huge trend, that Auckland would suddenly start liking itself. That it wasn't just about leadership, although Len certainly popped up and has worked, but it was Aucklanders that fell in love with themselves. And Tongans and Samoans started to talk and dance in the street. Suddenly the Chinese community felt good, the Indian community felt terrific, and everyone else seemed to have a place. And they all came into town. They came to the wharf, they came to the cloud, they went to the games. Suddenly Auckland found the sevens. We hadn't had anything. We'd had a shitty little few parades that nobody really wanted or cared sometimes. But suddenly we found our big parade. And so Auckland found its weather. We found suddenly it was sunny. We had a summer in Auckland, and not at a West Coast beach or Maraetai. These are different beaches. We found, my God, it's terrific. We found drinking and eating and cafes. Everyone took a cooking course. And so every bit of food was great. And everybody got excited. And people had a terrific experience about a city. And the nature of cities, which we've always had a little bit of envy of. We've always talked about Brisbane and Melbourne, how good they are. And those of us that might have gone overseas came back and said, oh my God, you should see Paris. Well, it's dirty and smelly, but boy, it's got something. What it has is a city feel. And so Auckland suddenly got itself a feel, a richness, if you like, an excitement, I think. And that, what happened? The world looked at us and said, hey, you're not bad. And I'd done the same way in Waitakere, by the way. You know, I transformed inside it, but then a lot of people put me down and said I was nothing but a tree hugger, a sandal-wearing, bicycle-riding tree hugger. I didn't, in fact, I thought I was very smart. So what I did, I jumped over and got the media to like what was happening in Waitakere, and then we had a water crisis where the dams ran out, and I kind of did some rather quick thinking miracle work, and people went, my God, he's quite clever, and Waitakere's quite smart. So we moved from Bougainville to Smartsville, and then they found the vineyards. Oh, we didn't know they're there. They'd been there for 80 years. Then they found Piha. Wow. And then they found Katikara and the West Coast beaches and went, isn't it terrific out there? Well, it was always bloody terrific out there. They just hadn't looked, and they'd been distracted by distractions. And so when we had the World Cup, rugby suddenly made us an event and an event city. So I'm going to run through some quick slides. Look at in 1945 how small it was, in 1975 and 2001. Look how quickly we grew, 2008. And then, of course, the reforms. That's what happened. The reforms, which I have to say, I had a few kind of nights of walking along the beach, saying goodbye to something I loved. I felt I was having a divorce. I haven't had a divorce, but when somebody that you might love says, hey, I really think you're quite good, but I'm leaving. It's been great, but goodbye. And that was what was happening to me. I had to come through that. And you have to realize that when you think bigger than yourself and kind of go somewhere that your heart mightn't want to, but your head says, this has got to happen. This needs to happen, and the moment is now. Then it's a bit like bungee jumping or things that you feel you need to do. And I've always kind of done this. And it's transformation for you. Somebody my son rang me on the way down and said, hey, Dad, they've just put in the world's biggest water slide at Helensville. My heart sinks because the kid now wants me to go and do it, doesn't he? It's like 90 meters down a plunging hillside. And I think, do I do this in Speedos? I'm a little old. You're never too old to wear Speedos. But is this too old? Am I too old to do 90 meters or something down a bloody hillside? And I said, well, when are we going to do it? And that's a bit like now. When are you going to do it? Are you going to do it in 5 years' time? Are you going to do it in 10 years' time? And what are you going to do, and what I want you to do, is realize that Auckland is one of the greatest opportunities. Auckland, what it is, the place, I was raving a bit about the new movie, The Hobbit, and I really think they're all going somewhere to this, mountain to find the gold. That's Auckland. I could turn you all into hobbits, and you could start walking today to find the bloody gold. Because it's not so much gold, but your future. You have to, I believe, link with this great new entity in New Zealand. Nothing else is more exciting. Nothing more is this place that's got its act together and is now in our psyche for the next 100, 200 years. It's Auckland that matters. And I can only tell you that because I came from local government, like many of you do, and before then I came from business. And I'd seen and transformed companies, and I can see how you have to lift your game plan, you have to be strategic, you have to show leadership, and you have to bring a culture to bear. You can't do this without culture. And you do have to leave things behind. And you do have to leave a grief process, as did many of the local boroughs in Auckland that had small councils, mayors, walls of brown and sepia pictures of how good people used to be in local government. You know, there's council photographs, them all standing there in beards and long hair and flares, and Helen Clark standing in the middle smiling. You know, all that kind of thing gone, packed in boxes and shipped to some dusty library warehouse. And that's what we had to do in Auckland. We had to spend a month putting the files of cities that had been together for 80 years, 60 years, the West, 103 years of the West was put in boxes and sent somewhere. And so I realised that governance reform needed more than ever to happen. And if I wasn't going to be part of the steamroller, I was going to be part of the road. Look at that. Before, 1 regional council, 3 district councils, 4 city councils, 30 community boards that no one liked. Everyone wanted to get rid of. I didn't. I thought they were like God's fingers. They were so bloody good. If you loved them and stroked them, they'd do anything for you. And they'd go when you're too tired to go, they'd run off and do things for you because the councillors were too lazy. So you had 1 elected regional council, 1 chair, 7 mayors elected at large, none who kind of liked each other that much, all said things about each other and hoped they got not re-elected. 13 regional councils that no one could stand, and an ARC that just stuffed up business, put the brakes on everything, was a pain in the arse. You begged, you pleaded the ARC to help you do something transformational, and you waited 2 years and they said no. 96 territorial councillors, authority councillors, and 145 community boards. Look what we've got now. 1 Auckland council that feels right. That feels right. A partnership with Māori which I think has been outstanding. Outstanding. Suddenly Māori feel in Auckland they're part of the process. They're part of the future. They're linked. Kia ora to that, long, long overdue. And because of that, in comes Polynesia, and in comes Asia, in comes India, in comes Southeast Asia, and all the other groups feel that mum and dad get on well. They're part of the family. No one felt that they belonged to an Auckland family before. And you've got 1 regional mayor with good governance. And I want to tell you that Len is okay. I mean, I actually thought I'd like to be that job. I thought I'd like to have that job. And then I read a thing, because I rather like ancient history, that the Emperor Tatius had on his tomb, he would have made a very good emperor if he hadn't been one. And I thought, well, that's me, really. I'll just keep the bastards guessing. Because I also thought that I loved Waitakere, but I didn't like the South. I can't really like the South that much because it's too big and too complex, and I didn't feel I could love the South like I love the West. And I could never understand the North Shore at all. And so I didn't want the job. But in saying that, I say it with some humbleness, I thought there'd be others. And Len was that other. You got 20 councillors, and they work together. They feel okay. To me, I sit with them and they grill me about Auckland Waterfront. And 21 local boards, and they're liked. They're not like the old community boards. The mayors will say, I can hardly wait to get rid of them. They actually acknowledge they have some money, they have spending power, and that's the 149 local board members that I think have really lifted the game plan in Auckland. And that's the Mayor's vision. You can't knock that, the world's most livable city. It's a terrific kind of magnet. It's got resilience, it's got strategic, and the transport system, when the trains run on time, but it seems okay. And so it's got high productivity. And do you know what it's got? It's got smart thinking. Rod put it so succinctly. Auckland feels that they can go to the future, that there is a future, a sustainable future, an environmental future, that it's okay. And now we regard the rest of New Zealand as friends and not enemies. There was a horrific feeling that Wellington didn't like us, we couldn't talk to politicians, they spoke a different language down there, and they do. And now it's our turn. And it's our turn now for probably, I think, 50 or 60 years. And so the target of 40% reduction in CO is really terribly important. So that's the Auckland that I want to talk to you about. With an Auckland plan, and you have to have, I think, strategic documentation. You have to think through your thinking, and that's why this audience is so good. Each and every one of you have had a lifetime of experience, but you're also smart people. You are the people that can drive and show leadership. You are it. And the good thing is, in your lifetime, I'm 72, but I reckon I've got a few more years to go. In your lifetime, you can make the change. But you have to come from that internally. You have to really work through how you want to do it, to pass on the torch to younger, smarter people. Not smarter than you, but people different. And this is what the Auckland plan does. It firstly puts children and young people first. I think that's terrific. It's outward looking, global. First time Auckland thinks that it's a world city and that we can talk equally. I did a thing just last year. I asked the leaders of the world waterfronts to come to Auckland, thinking I'll get 2. I got 12 of the CEOs of the waterfronts, and they came down to Auckland and went, my God, this is wonderful. Do you know why? Because we hadn't stuck motorways over the waterfronts, like all the American cities have done. We had boulevards that went for 3 kilometres, 5 kilometres. They went, this is extraordinary. And I thought, really? I mean, I was surprised by my own planning of how the waterfront looked. And then I realised that what I'd done, I'd transformed the Auckland waterfront. And Len had transformed the city. And I'm not taking a lot of credit for everybody else's wonderful input, but suddenly, through other people's eyes, I saw how good we were. The opportunity. Asia Pacific innovation capital. Smart thinking. I go to China, I've been to China quite a lot. They're obsessed with food safety. Suddenly I came up with an idea of making down the waterfront an innovation quarter. Well, the books look phenomenal. I've got orders coming from everywhere. So I can fill a whole city block, bigger than an American city block, with people that want to work in innovation and technology and smart thinking. I love the idea of the cows. I probably will have by next week a herd of cows sitting on a roof with those robots, because I'm a great thief of ideas. We should be. I look at the world and think, yes, I can do that. We can do that. And within 6 months, you can do that. The targets, they're big targets. They've got to be set big targets. And they are. You can see those. I think we can achieve all those. We can put together a city and a country that works. Safe, secure. There's a big problem about cities everywhere, how resilient they are. Climate change, don't ignore that. Cyclone Sandy going through New York was a wake-up call to a very smart and very elegant city. Everything was wrong. And we're seeing it with our friends in Bundaberg. Horrific things happen to good people. And suddenly cities now need to wake up, but that's not quite for this one. The bold goal is people and the economy. This is not government talking down. This is about people linking and making a lot of sense with each other. Conversations, talking, debating, and getting a result. I've never known local government. I've been in local government probably for about 40 years if I take working with Robbie, Kath Tizard, all those people. I was kind of always with them and seeing how slow, how desperately dull local government was, how we could talk ourselves out of the best ideas for a lot of reasons. Now, no one's talking themselves out of terrific ideas in Auckland. And the priority areas to have a business-friendly, and well-functioned city. And everyone seems to have picked up on that leadership. We've just got Volvo coming back down the waterfront. We've got 5 huge international events. And that happens. I have to tell you, that's quite exciting. Always try and hook big events which attract energy and effort. And there's a lot of other things that Rod made so clear on that might look good, but unless you're able to deliver those by strategic thinking and smart thinking, they don't work. There's a lot of disappointing things that can happen if you overhype things. And innovation. Of all the things I love about New Zealand, it's our innovation. It's transforming ideas, science, technology. I work with so many smart people in Auckland now that have come from everywhere, from America, from Canada, from France, name it. They're coming to Auckland. Like, I never thought we could attract such brilliant thinkers, young. Peter Jacksons are here in Auckland. So this is the transformation that I haven't come here to ram down your throat. I want you to join it. I want you to join it quite quickly, and that's what I'm looking to show you. The key sectors of which the Bay of Plenty is so good at is the food and beverage, health technology, the marine, and I think some of those other sciences which you mustn't sell yourself short of. I think that here, in a user-friendly climate, has got everything that Auckland needs and wants. And also, you don't have to do any homework about do we like you or not. We love you. In Rotorua, we go for our holidays and we spend most of our honeymoons and all that kind of thing. It's a nice kind of psyche. We like Tauranga very much, and we think the Mount is dazzling. And by the way, we also think your port is terrific. We love it. We love it more. And so we've got our place, and we've got a harbour, and we've fallen in love with the harbour. And really, when you look at what we had, that's the old 1885, we've reclaimed what we want, we've boulevarded it. That was Jellicoe Street in 2009. Have a look at it now. That's transformation. And it works so well, it looks so good, until you come, I guess, as the first Auckland plan is what we know, to how we should do it. Here's the major centres of employment. We now know where we want people to work, the level of employment there. This is just a quick roadmap of we know what we're doing. This is where it's not good and where we need to clean it up. But this isn't Chicago. This is Auckland, and we can do it. We know now how to get around. Don't deal with a city that's transport is stuffed. This is a city where state highways now, and when the tunnel goes through at Waterview, we'll link from one side to the other. This will take our people whizzing, if you like, in the 21st century around Auckland. We've got it. It's taken us 40 years of fighting, scrapping. We'll go under the harbour. Scrapping is gone. And down the wharf, I hope to do something as good as this. I'm talking already to the Guggenheim. I'm talking to the Louvre. And this is this amazing, beautiful Guggenheim in Spain's Bilbao. And here's the port. This is a city on the waterfront. And if I've come to say to you to do one thing, I want to inspire you to talk with Auckland about taking its port. Part, all, come get it. It might take you 5 years, maybe take you 10. Auckland doesn't want to sell its port. There's no reason why it can't merge. It seemed to me that we love our harbour so much, and we think that we could use more of it, that it's right. Right now, there exists an opportunity without malice or any confrontation really. There'll be a bit of scrapping in the corridors of power. Come get it. Come and say this is how it could operate. Because Auckland, we're just down the road. You know what we can do? We've proved it. We've got the land, we've got the place, we've got the purpose. I think it's upside down, I think, but, well, something has happened. Just stand on your head and look around and you'll see my slides. I don't know how it's gone upside down, but let me just keep talking. I think that you, and I'm talking of the Bay of Plenty, have an opportunity right now with the excitement of Auckland to praise and to see what you can do. For you, this opportunity exists. Why does it exist? Because I go back to my trends research. Every Aucklander would say, we love the city and the harbour. And if the port was negotiated, I would feel happy. I would think probably government would think, well, that solves one of the problems. Maybe a bit would go to Whangarei, by the way, which I think probably desperately needs some help and assistance. It would work that way. And Auckland could continue its transformation. It's a beautiful creature, Auckland, this place of 1,000 lovers, and it's looked in the mirror and it knows it's good. And it will stay that way. It will become, as Len says, one of the world's most livable cities. And it will be livable because the satellites, and I'm talking of Hamilton and Waikato too, which will provide and work closely. And everything will feel like they're 10 minutes away. So Waikato will feel like they're 10 minutes from Auckland. You'll feel like you're 20 minutes from Auckland. And probably in this century, you will be. And so this meeting is more than just a group of people that like each other and know each other, come sit and talk. You could, and I hope you can be, the transformational leaders of this area. It's a terrific opportunity, and I'm kind of asking you to seize that moment, to each and every one of you be a leader. It's not without pain, and it's not without nostalgia. I love history, so I like a bit of nostalgia. It's not what it used to be. But right now, I just, as one of the speakers here, feel that there's a moment of time. As Robbie said, it's wrong to be right too soon. It's right to think this, it's right to think big, and it's right to think your links. You don't lose anything, but you gain the world. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Look, let's devote a little time. Comments, questions too, Bob. Anyone?
Well, what does Doug Owen, my old buddy here, whose great father, Sir Bob Owen, I used to come down and ask him for money for Robbie's campaign. So, Doug, you're a port man.
Welcome to our place. It's always good to see you, Bob. We recently read in the papers that the Auditor General had a good look at the accountability question of the CCOs. And it stated very plainly that the CCOs were not accountable, and as a result of that, if they did not become accountable, the council should sack them. Now, you're a chairman of one of these CCOs. What's your comment on that?
Well, I think it's nonsense because all of the CCOs will say we've never had a worse grilling. You know, there's a bit of ego in running a CCO, and we're up at City Hall every month. We sit. Once we just stood, by the way, said Dame Jenny. We just got up the council and we stood in front of our peers. Now we're allowed to sit, and so I think the accountability of the CCOs is driven by both finance and strategic at the Auckland Council. So I would say that's nonsense. Whoever wrote that report clearly hasn't been to Auckland Council in the last couple of years, because I did a lot of work with my studios with CCOs, and the CCO model, driven with good people, good boards, work, and their delivery is extraordinary, I think. Now, I do think probably a couple of things will happen. They will, after I get re-elected, they will, I think, have a look at the CCOs, and maybe they'll put 2 or 3 together, and I think probably of the 7, maybe 5 or even 4 will survive. But the model works. I think the one thing I would not like to see is the opportunities that we're doing and working on fall in the hands of, for the best will in the world, city officials. Because there is a level of officialdom which is plucked from the old councils, which are really second rate. Simple as that. People that got redundancy, I certainly didn't get redundancy, ran back to the council and said, what about me? And they said, oh, Jack, you can run the libraries. Really? Half those people were fired by the councils. So I'm being pretty rough there, you know. I mean, I want to see the game plan lifted. And what it has been lifted, Doug, it's a good question, is by the CCO operation. They have a fury of performance, and it's driven by City Hall.
Thank you. Next question over here, please.
Kia ora, Bob. Piemontese, my name. I'm a romantic about rail, and both you and Rod referred to perhaps leveraging this area, leveraging off Auckland. Yeah. I'd perhaps value your comment on whether we should therefore look to plan for a fast rail link, you know, aka sort of like the Eurostar, rather than some old trundler that goes to Hamilton and then trundles up the old main trunk. So, yeah, just a question. Would that help?
Well,
it would certainly. So the other thing it would take is Air New Zealand's dreadful monopoly on $169 flights from here to Auckland, and then a drive through another hour before you get to where you need to go. Cheers.
Well, look, it's a terrific question, and I happen to be one of the world's great fans of rail. I was in China last year, and they were raving about the 6 hours from Hong Kong to Beijing. China, I think China will save the world, by the way, but that's another story, love rail. The West always loved the rail. The West survived on a rail link, where the motorways in the 1980s and 1970s almost destroyed Auckland because they'd never been finished, as you know. But the rail is a fantastic future and has a fantastic future. It's faster, it's better, it's more efficient, I reckon. And as you say, with the Air New Zealand monopoly, I think if you wish to link with Auckland, talk rail, rail and rail, and keep it up. And go look at China. I mean, they are very smart, incredibly smart, and they've had a century and a half of rail. And now the trains in China, which carry enormous amounts of materials and infrastructure, have never been faster and more efficient. So we're talking rail. And the Port of Tauranga and the Port of Auckland need rail. You know, the Port of Auckland has a rail, by the way, and it goes to Glen Innes. It goes to Glen Innes. I mean, why would it go to Glen Innes? Glen Innes is like 3 kilometres in the wrong direction. Yeah.
Any more questions or comments? Please. Just wait for the microphone, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, good morning, Bob. Brian Anderson here. Just following that rail one on, when New Zealand Railways eventually disappeared, it was strange that the year before that, the rail link between Hamilton, Tauranga and Auckland actually was totally responsible for the first ever government railway actually making a profit.
Yeah, yeah.
So they immediately sold it. So it was very interesting that you're talking railway perhaps for Auckland, railway perhaps for Tauranga.
Yeah.
Have you had any, and you did mention Waikato, have you had any links at reinvigorating, because you're asking it for us to link with the Bay of Plenty, reinvigorating that rail and link on a three-way basis rather than a one-way? Because this appears to be the, as you were saying, the suppliers for Auckland, the holiday place out here, and the whatever it was, all those lovers you've got in Auckland is a bit worrying, isn't it?
Look, when I was on the Mayoral Forum, Barry Curtis and I were rail freaks because we'd grown up as schoolboys on the rail. That's how we went to school. And the fact is, we had this great love of rail, and we would have these meetings, particularly with the rail spur. There's a lot of things that I could go over. What the hell goes? You get on a flight, an international flight, come to Auckland, you pay $120 to get into the centre of Auckland. Where else would you do this? Where you should be able to just take the bags off and get on a rail link all the way into Britomart. Once you get onto the link, it's terrific. The trains are good. They are efficient. They take you right into Britomart, which I think is an absolute bloody gem, to be honest, and then the world happens. So I think that you have got to start that. This is one of the issues, and I think you should continue working what we're doing here, and take these issues like rail. And don't be talked out of it. I mean, don't be talked out of it by government. Don't be talked out of it at all by infrastructure that say the world has changed. The world has not changed in rail. The rail has got better, smarter everywhere. This is an issue that I think you should own, just the same way as the port issue that I'm talking about. Link them. They are the secrets of success. I can't be more positive about rail.